Coming to the stage now, an academic who they tried to cancel, but unfortunately for the woke, which is nothing more than Marxism dressed up as manners, this man could not be canceled. He's a man whose wit, yes, he is a man whose wit, intellectual brilliance, courage, and most importantly, his love of country would not allow him to be canceled. He is a champion of freedom. Please welcome the sexiest biologist alive, Bret Weinstein!
Wow. Holy moly. All right. If it's okay with you guys, I'm going to claim I had the crowd on its feet from the beginning. So, the time has arrived. Welcome to Rescue the Republic. Over the course of the next 6 hours or so, you're going to hear from some of the clearest minds on Earth, brilliant thinkers, clever comics, and insightful musicians. But the attributes that unite us in this historic time and place live not in the mind, but in the heart. What has caused us to converge is a powerful force, a product that blooms when courage and love are combined. Courage and love are potent forces in their own right, of course, but neither on its own is sufficient to put you on this stage or in this crowd. A person can have courage and confront danger with no higher purpose in mind, and a person can love something and, paralyzed by fear, watch it perish before their eyes. When courage and love come together, however, when people face their fears for something they truly love, the force they become shapes history for the better, and that is what fuels our rescue mission. This is not a political exercise. We are nonpartisan and brought together across ideological lines to right the ship of state and put her back on course toward an objective spelled out but not fully achieved by the American founders. Patriotism is what brings us together in this moment of profound peril. Patriotism. Though I suspect some watching from afar will find my use of the term in 2024 bizarre or even grotesque, it has become fashionable, especially amongst those born into privilege, to regard patriotism as unenlightened, primal, and dangerous. But their educations have failed them. In a state of selfish confusion, they mistake nationalism for patriotism and toss the precious baby out with the dirty bathwater. President Kennedy, though he mentioned neither term, drew the distinction between nationalism and patriotism perfectly, not quite 64 years ago, and not quite 3,000 meters directly to our east. Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country, Kennedy instructed 2 years before his untimely death. Some will ask why it takes courage or love to deliver or witness a speech here in the shadow of the Washington Monument. Obviously, it shouldn't. But I doubt there are many here today who did not seriously consider whether they were putting their freedom or perhaps even their lives in danger. And as we planned the event, many people shared their concerns. I've lost count of the number of times I was warned not to do it by someone who then wished us luck. But the more I listened to people's trepidations, the simpler the calculus became. If millions of Americans are afraid to exercise their most fundamental right in their own capital, that implies the capital is held by a force that is hostile to the Republic and her people. Speech is our right and our duty. It is the alternative to violence, coercion, and tyranny. And whether the force that presently intimidates us is foreign, domestic, or some hybrid of the two, we are duty-bound to confront it, to peaceably assemble, to speak without hesitation about our grievances. I say the calculus is clear because the targeting of our civil liberties tells us where we are headed. If we don't stand up now, the slight relief we feel in the present will be replaced in short order by the suffering and horror experienced by those who face a historic atrocity. We must stare down this threat. We have no choice. We must speak out loud about our doubts and fears, as that old song would have it. Now, as long as we're on the topic of fears, let's confront one directly. If, as the event proceeds, you find yourself faced with someone displaying Nazi symbols, inciting violence or lawlessness, or you encounter a group of people dressed in paramilitary garb, those are assuredly federal agents. Thank them for their service and move on. Now, some of you are no doubt thinking there's something odd about a mission to rescue the Republic that includes many speakers from abroad. But this is actually a testament to the achievements of the founding generation. Our founding fathers almost accidentally invented the modern West. They did it because they had to balance the tensions between the various colonies in order to persuade them to confederate. The careful job that they did balancing the various concerns created a prototype for a world that was not rigged in anybody's direction. Obviously, they didn't complete the job. The Three-Fifths Compromise stands as a black mark on our record. But they did articulate the objective and create a process that, as long as the fundamentals are left intact, corrects itself over time. The founders innovated a system that was effectively a commitment to a level playing field, a complete departure from the world that preceded it, a world dominated by lineage against lineage conflict navigated by threats and force. Commitment to a level playing field, even if the objective remains distant, turns out to be lightning in a bottle. And the closer you get to that goal, the greater the returns. The world the West emerged from was dominated by considerations of race, ethnicity, and religion. Those parameters dominated the question of who you could collaborate with. Under such rules, people can only be so productive because the most potential collaborators are out of bounds. On a level playing field, where the entire society is bound by rules that favor no population over any other, productivity skyrockets. If everyone is free to collaborate across demographic lines, more wealth is created because more innovation happens and more productive work gets done. Teamwork is everything. The more choices you have when assembling your team, the greater the heights you can achieve. It is also true that it's simply a more meaningful and rewarding life when you abandon bigotry. It's like giving your entire civilization a massive raise in the currency of brotherhood. Now, am I saying that the United States is a level playing field? Of course not. And it was especially unfair to Black Americans and Native Americans from its inception. But I am saying that the founders envisioned a republic of free people based on the idea that all men were created equal. a nation in which the legitimacy of governance was based on the consent of the governed, and every person was entitled to equal protection under the law. I am also saying that we have moved rapidly in the direction of that vision over time and prospered mightily with every step we have taken toward it. And the obvious productivity and dynamism of our nation that aims to liberate individuals by distributing opportunity as evenly as possible is contagious. What succeeded in America caught on, and it spread across the world, because those who saw what it could do wished to duplicate that magic. People want to live in the West, no matter where they reside. The West is not a list of nations, it's not a geographic description, it's an ideal, the level playing field, and a set of agreements that point toward it. And therein lies the rub. The agreements are fragile. There is progress and backsliding in every society that has joined the experiment, and the West is, at this moment, in grave danger. Some force that wishes to rig the world has clearly taken hold and targeted these agreements everywhere they have been embraced. In societies with weak constitutions, civil liberties have already given way. In the United States, we have one of the strongest constitutions anywhere, and so our descent into tyranny is slower, but there is no time to lose. We have to regain control of our system and return to the founders' vision, or we will soon find the opportunity has slipped away. We must rescue the Republic to save the West. But why is this happening? How has the system of checks and balances that is supposed to protect us been compromised? The answer is to be found in biology. Our constitutional republic has become senile. The immunities it once had are gone, and it has lost sight of its purpose, all of which has opened it to capture by parasitic and predatory forces. That may seem like an extreme claim, but I believe this is much more than an analogy. Creatures get old because evolution has favored numerous characteristics that make them strong when they are young at almost any price, so long as it is delayed. So we grow old and die because all of the delayed costs eventually catch up to us. Unfortunately, civilizations have exactly the same defect, and those based on free markets in which leaders are elected are likely to be particularly susceptible. Politicians and profiteers benefit from thinking on short time horizons, and they generally lose when they think over too long a term. All of this short-term problem solving and kicking the cost can down the road has produced an inevitable crisis. The most powerful society the world has ever known is angry and hopelessly confused. It is, in short, demented. We are facing the destruction of the West, and we cannot afford to return to the dark world that would certainly replace it. So how does nature address senility? Beautifully. It has the perfect remedy at its disposal. As we begin to age, we produce offspring. Our kids learn that fraction of what we know that still has some use, and they abandon the rest. That pattern of never-ending renewal is the essence of what it means to be human. And at first, it leaves us little reason for hope with respect to the failure of the West, because the West is not a creature, and it cannot nurture a child. So what are we to do? When children absorb the content of their culture, it isn't just facts and skills. The most important things we pass between generations are myths, stories that are so powerfully important they are encoded in a special sacred layer. And in our case, the myth we need comes to us from the Greeks, the founders of the ancient West, the one from which the modern West ultimately emerged. It is the story of the phoenix, a mystical bird that instead of making chicks, lights its nest ablaze and raises anew from the ashes. Watching the modern West burn, I believe it is no accident that this story points us to a hidden solution, a remedy for which we just so happen to have the ingredients. One of our explicit purposes in this gathering was to galvanize the unity movement, bringing representatives together from across the global West. And if you will allow me to draw on another myth, I believe our mission will become clear. I call the thing that has captured our system Goliath. It is the force that prevents all meaningful change. In the biblical story, Goliath is a giant, a man, a large man, but a man all the same. In our time, Goliath, like everything else, has scaled way up. The force that wants us to be terrified, to exercise our First Amendment rights in our own capital, that's Goliath. Now look around you. Do you all see what I see? David has scaled up. We are David. We are mighty, and our time has come. Now let's put the two myths together. Goliath made a terrible strategic error. He is ungodly powerful, but he's dumb as a box of rocks. His error was this. He terrorized all the competent, courageous people and set about driving them from the institutions. Now they gather in a post-political unity movement and come to know their power. We have every single person you could possibly want on our side. We have all the courage, all the integrity, and all the know-how. The question is how to drive Goliath out and infuse all that talent and insight back into the system so it can be renewed. In 1787, Ben Franklin was asked if the Constitutional Convention had produced a monarchy or a republic, and Franklin famously replied, "A republic, if you can keep it." Today, David and the Unity Movement face a similar question. What we must deliver is a republic, if we can phoenix it. I have learned from decades of study of human nature that important concepts emerge independently again and again. And so, in closing, I ask you to think about the job we must do to phoenix our republic, the daunting obstacle in our path, Goliath, and the unity movement we bring to the battle, David. It is for such moments that the Hopi elders tell us we are the ones we've been waiting for.